Hi, everybody. I'm just going to wait for a couple people to carry on joining, and then I'll start. Since I know Friday is paper 1, and I know that a lot of people still have a lot of revisions still to do, and this week is quite difficult, I know, because many of you are writing other papers. You are writing Afrikaans this week. If you do history, that's also this week. If you do business studies, I think that's this week as well. So I'm just going to wait for everyone to join in. Please feel free to join and share the live with any other matrics that maybe want to join in with us today. And then also feel free to ask any questions and such stuff like that. Because I have a couple of topics that I want to do today. I'm going to probably cover a lot of paper 1 stuff. I'm going to show you some of my notes that I've made, and that you can then also make those notes as well. They might not be up on the screen long enough for you to see them and copy them down quickly now, but I'm going to take this video and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel, and then I'm going to timestamp the specific topics so you can fast forward to those topics. You can freeze the screen, you can download, or should I say you can write down your own version of my note. But essentially, I think I'm going to get started. I will ask some requests a little bit later on to see what you want me to go over. I am going to be touching on stuff mostly in paper 1. So should we start then? I'm thinking that we need to begin maybe with the eye and the ear. I feel like a lot of people don't know how to explain balance and posture, and what the semicircular canals do and what the utriculus and sacculus do. So I want to quickly run through that, and I want to remind everybody that it's really important that you have this document, which is the Life Sciences Exam Guideline. You can get it off the internet, you can get it off the government website, it's really easy to find there. And it has a detailed explanation of how to explain certain things. But yeah, then let's get into it. So, I want to cover some ear stuff, because I know that everyone doesn't do so great with that. So I'm just going to swap the camera around so you can see my page, and also I can see your questions and comments at the same time, so feel free to ask something if you need to. Okay, so essentially what I want to look at now is the semicircular canals and effectively what their job is. Now, the semicircular canals, if we have forgotten, is that they are responsible for our balance. And the semicircular canals, you have 3 of these, and you have 3 because they are all at right angles to each other. And so in other words, if I were to draw it, you have one that goes up, one that goes around to the side, and this is quite difficult for you to see, but you have a third that sort of spirals outwards. And essentially what it allows you to do is it allows you to have up and down motion. So this is up and down. It allows you to feel side to side, and your semicircular canals also allow you to do what have I done? Up and down, side to side, and this is difficult to show because it looks like up and down, but it allows you to do forward and back motion. Okay, so this is always a really tough question at the end of the year. They always put it in. They're going to ask you something like, a boy was running in a soccer game, and how did he maintain his balance? So this is specifically for balance, okay? So in all these questions, you follow the formula, and the formula answer is going to be the stimulus, which is received by a receptor. The receptor then sends a impulse to the, let's call it the, what am I going to call it? The control center. And then from the control center, it creates a corrective measure. That creative measure is then sent to an effector. And then we sort of return to the norm. So this is how you structure your answer whenever you are going to apply it to the nervous system, to an endocrine answer, and also to any homeostasis. Okay, so how do I apply this to someone who wants to maintain their balance? So I'm just going to swap pen colors so that you can see the difference. So if in this instance we are maintaining our balance, the stimulus is going to be a change in speed and direction. And you have to stipulate that in your answer. I'm just going to bullet point these so that it's easier. Now, the change in the speed and direction is the stimulus. So, who are the receptors? Now, you don't need to know the specific structure of the receptor in the ear. And that is the great part about this. You just need to know the name of the receptor. And that is the, for the semicircular canals, the receptor is the cristae. Okay, now the cristae is the receptor, and technically the cristae is going to receive that information, but that is not going to create a corrective measure. We have to rely on the control center for that. So the stimulus then comes into the receptor then receives that information, which is the cristae, and that information needs to be sent to a control center. Now, the control center that we are speaking about here is the cerebellum. The cerebellum needs to make some kind of corrective measure, which in this case is going to be sent to our skeletal muscles. And they need to contract. That's going to be the corrective measure, because if we are running and if this boy is playing soccer and he's sort of zigzagging around players, he has to be able to move around them. And so your skeletal muscle is going to contract. That's the corrective measure. That is sent to the effector, which in this case is the muscles of the body. And then finally, you have to finish your answer off by saying that you return to the norm. So we don't just say return to the norm. Instead, for this example, we would say muscles contract and balance is restored. Okay? Easy peasy. And you can actually apply this to all of your, like I mentioned to you earlier, you can apply to all of these, the nervous system, the endocrine, and homeostasis. So if you want to, you can make this little note now in the black. This is the set answer, and you just need to substitute this in. The tricky part, by the way, is that this isn't blatantly written like this in the exam guideline, and is probably not really blatantly explained in anybody's textbooks, not really, not to the fullest extent. Where did I get all of this from, and where did I get the memo from? You can get the memo for these answers from your past papers. Just find a semicircular canal answer or question, and you'll be able to find the memo that matches it. So if these are the semicircular canals and they do up, down, side, back, and forward movement, you also need to worry about posture. So when we look at posture, we are talking about the utriculus and sacculus. Okay? And that is for posture. In other words, posture is relative to whether you are horizontal, so you're lying down, or vertical, are you standing upright, okay? And essentially, attached to your 3 semicircular canals is this swollen region lower down, and then that eventually becomes the cochlea, which is lower here. So this is our whole ear. We've just done the semicircular canals, like so. Okay, we've done those. I need to now focus in on the utriculus and sacculus. Now, these two structures are at right angles of one another. So one is vertical, and one is horizontal. And you need to have two because you need to be able to put the head in a position of space. In other words, you need to know where is your head in relation to the rest of your body. Are you lying down? Are you standing up? Are you leaning forward? Are you leaning backwards? So, just like our previous question, something like, it could be someone is driving in a car and they lean forward in the car. Explain how they maintain their posture whilst in the car. And essentially what they're asking you is, how do they keep upright in the car? Why do they just fall over all the time? And so we're going to follow our stimulus receptor, control center, corrective measure, effector, return to norm example each time. And so we'll do it again. This time I'm not going to write in stimulus and receptor. I'm just going to use the answers. So you always have to say what the stimulus is. So in this instance, it is a change in the position of the head. The previous one was a change in the speed and direction of the body. So it's slightly different. Now that is sent to our receptor. Our receptors inside the utriculus and sacculus are called the maculae, and you will need to know this word as it is a terminology word. Okay, so the maculae is our receptor, and it now receives the stimulus, and that information is now converted into an impulse. That impulse that is converted is sent to, yet again, the cerebellum. The cerebellum needs to make a corrective decision. Now, in this instance, if you're sitting in a car and a car accelerates or brakes really quickly and you fling forward in your seats and your seatbelt is sort of helping you come back upright again, the only way you keep your posture upright and you stay that way inside of a car is because the cerebellum is coordinating the muscles. So the corrective measure here is the coord of muscles. In other words, making sure that all the muscles are coordinated in the same way. That is then sent to the effectors. In this instance, the effectors are just the skeletal muscle. And the skeletal muscles contract and we restore posture. They do a lot of these where there's examples of like somebody falls over, explain how they get back up again, or they're playing some kind of sport, explain how they run around obstacles. And in conjunction with this, they also like to do questions around hearing as well. So I'm just going to flip the camera around so you can all see me again. I know that was a very short explanation. Just so that you know, I have a video on this on my YouTube channel that goes into a lot of detail. So if you want, the link is in my bio. You can go and watch it. The videos are not too long. They're about maybe 6 to 8 minutes. And essentially I explain all of this in a lot more detail with some pictures as well and some diagrams. So you can also go and look there too. So essentially that's how you describe balance and posture. And it's always a really badly answered question. I want to show you something else, and what I'm going to do now is I've actually made notes on homeostasis and the endocrine stuff. And for some reason, those videos of mine on YouTube have done really well. And I don't know if it's because everyone doesn't know what the endocrine system does actually and how to explain it. But I'm just going to show you some of my notes, and you can take screenshots of these notes when I put them up now, so you can make your own notes later from them. But essentially what they are is sort of summaries of the different ways in which different hormones are regulated, and also what happens in specifically homeostasis, because I don't think we're very good at homeostasis. So I'm just going to show you two of mine. One is for carbon dioxide and one is for water. And I want to talk about the water one for a little bit, because I know a lot of people misanswer the water one because they think water is always talking about antidiuretic hormone, and it is not. So let me show you the carbon dioxide one. You can screenshot this when I put it up, but I'm just going to quickly explain it to everybody as well, so that you know what it is all about. So here's my note. I'm just going to pull away from a little bit so that you can see how big it is. And what I've done here is I have described what I'm just going to go in a little bit closer so you can see everything. So let's say, for example, we are going to have to describe exercising. So you are running and you're using a lot of oxygen, which means you are respiring faster. So remember our answers that we spoke of earlier, where I said that you have a fixed answer that you can give. I'll show you what I mean, which was this that we did earlier. Remember I said stimulus, receptor, control center, corrective measure, effector, return to norm. Okay, like that. So here is our stimulus, exercising. That creates an increased CO2 level. Why? Because of an increased level of cellular respiration. Now, as CO2 increases, the pH lowers. Why is that? Because when carbon dioxide combines with water in your blood, it makes carbonic acid. So it lowers the pH. When you lower the pH, that is going to stimulate the chemoreceptors. These chemoreceptors, they're going to go to the medulla oblongata. And remember, this is the control center of your brain that is responsible for your breathing rate. Just to quickly answer you, Taz, yes, the live is going to be uploaded to YouTube later today. Now, the medulla has a respiratory center in it, like I mentioned to you now, and that's responsible for your breathing rate. Now, if we're exercising, it's very obvious, hopefully to everybody, that you're going to breathe faster, right? So what is the corrective measure? Two types of corrective measures take place. One, the respiratory muscles are going to get sent an impulse, and two, the heart is going to get an impulse. And often the heart is forgotten about. I don't know what it is, but in the final exam, a lot of people only speak about the breathing muscles contracting more. But doesn't it make sense that if you are breathing faster, you should also have your heart beating faster as well? It's not just about your breathing rate, because if you just breathe fast, but your heart doesn't beat faster, you're going to hyperventilate. So you both have to happen at the same time. And so they're simultaneous. So let's just quickly go with the respiratory muscles. They contract more and faster. And the heart obviously beats faster, bringing more blood. Bringing more blood as in bringing more oxygenated blood to the muscles. These two together allow excess carbon dioxide to be breathed out, and you return to the set point, or to return to the norm. Many matrics don't write this very last point, and that's probably why you're not getting full marks at the end of the year. Now, this is a really important little side note that I put at the bottom here, and I really want to emphasize this. When we are describing CO2 homeostasis and pH homeostasis, it refers to an increase in CO2, not a decrease in oxygen. There is no such thing as a receptor for oxygen. Okay? There's no such thing. Akeem, I will put up the full page so you can screenshot it now. Don't worry about it. So I really want you to know that there is no receptors in your body for oxygen. They're all carbon dioxide. I'm just going to go out a little bit further, so if you want to take a screenshot now, you can. Okay, right, so that's my homeostasis one for carbon dioxide. Let me show you my water one. The water one is pretty straightforward. So this is water homeostasis. I'm going to just pull away so that you can see it, the entire page. You want to screenshot it, you can. Okay, let's go into it quickly. So this is for excessive water loss. In other words, you're sweating a lot in this particular day, or maybe you've lost blood. That's a really good question that they can give you. They might not say you were sweating a lot. They can also say you lost blood, because if you lose blood, you lose water. And so there's excessive water loss. Now, the excessive water loss leads to an increase in osmolarity. Remember, osmosis means water, but it's not on its own. Alarity refers to how many solutes, in other words, how many salts are dissolved in the water. So if there's an increase in osmolarity, that means that there's an increase in the amount of salt in proportion to the water in your blood. In other words, your blood is getting really salty, okay? Now, this saltiness, it stimulates your osmoreceptors, and you will need to call them that at the end of the year. You cannot just call them a receptor, okay? Those osmoreceptors, they are sending information to the hypothalamus, which is in the brain. It's a part of your brain. It's not actually a gland, or not necessarily what I would call it that, but it's a region of your brain, and that's where the corrective measure is going to come from. The corrective measure in this instance is ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of your textbooks out there probably say that it is the pituitary gland that secretes ADH. And that's not incorrect, by the way, everybody. I just want you to know that. The hypothalamus is linked to the pituitary. So the hypothalamus will then tell the pituitary to secrete ADH, and then ADH is secreted. In a matric level, you should know it's the hypothalamus doing this. I know in grade 11 you probably did the pituitary, but at grade 12 level you should know that it's one step beyond that, which is the hypothalamus. Okay, so the ADH is then sent to your kidney, and specifically that part of the kidney is the collecting duct. The pores and the walls of the collecting duct become more permeable, so that more water leaves the filtrate. And if more water leaves the filtrate, it's going to raise your water to set point again. In other words, raise your water back to norm. Okay. So I just want to ask anybody before I show you another note and we go through something else. Oh, sorry, I've dropped my camera. There we go. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask me that they would like me to cover? Because I am going to cover one or two other things. I'm going to do salt, homeostasis, natural selection and speciation, and the pupillary mechanism and accommodation of the eye. Chelsea, yes, this video will be uploaded to YouTube when we're done here. Jamie, I don't think that you should be too stressed. I mean, paper 1 is notoriously actually easier than paper 2. There's a lot more anatomy in paper 1 that you can get away with. Erin, I am going to do some evolution. I'm going to do speciation and natural selection. Chelsea, I'm going to do evolution. But is there anything else that people feel like? No, Matthew, it's not chemistry. Technically, biology is chemistry. They're not separate subjects. This is just biochem. We do organic chemistry. Is there anything else anyone wants to ask me before I continue? I feel like this is your opportunity to ask me something. Difficult essays? There's definitely something. Yeah, homeostasis does have a lot of information. I think if I just want to look back at what somebody said here. Taz, I've just done a little bit of the ear already earlier in the video, but don't worry, I'm going to post this video to YouTube so you can have a look at it there. I'm going to do some of the eye. I know that homeostasis is a lot for everyone to cover, but that's why I'm trying to make it easier for you with these notes. I think it's My Name is Tags. You said that you wanted to do the menstrual cycle. I did it in my last live, but my last live is on YouTube. You can go and look at it. Can they ask the same question? Are they getting them? Okay. Akeem Delport, this is actually a really important question he's asking. Can they ask the same essay question of the Gauteng prelim, for example, in the final? Yes, they can. So this is something that's really controversial. Every province can do their own, prelim that the whole province sets. So maybe your school did their exam, or maybe your school chose to do the provincial exam for their prelim. It's controversial because last year the Eastern Cape exam in their prelim was the essay question for the final November exam. So that's controversial because basically what it means is all those Eastern Cape learners already wrote the essay. So that can be quite unfair for people who haven't seen the essay. So when you're preparing for Friday's exam, my suggestion to you is don't just go and look at last year's final paper. I want you to go into the separate provincial departments. So you just Google like Education Department of Eastern Cape, Education Department of Gauteng, and you should be able to find their prelims in there as a resource, and they can actually use that essay as a final essay at the end of the year. It does suck, but it is the truth. I just want to see some of your questions because I haven't scrolled all the way down to the bottom. I haven't seen the exam yet, Bridget. I don't get to see it until you're all writing. So I only get to see it literally, and I'm only allowed to see it an hour after everyone has begun. Just want to see if there's anything else that I wanted to cover that maybe somebody had asked before I show you the next little slide. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to show you now one more homeostasis, so you can take a screenshot if you like. And then I'll give you a couple more tips on what you should be doing for paper 1. Let me flip my camera around. So this one's going to be on salt for homeostasis. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom out so you can hopefully screenshot that. Hopefully it's not too blurry and you can get a screenshot of it. But let me just go through it. So this is salt. Now, you should be learning salt and water together. These two are inseparable. And the reason for that is salt and water, they can't function without each other. Wherever salt goes, water follows. And so, yet again, I'm going to use my stimulus receptor control center corrective measure. I'm going to use this template to answer my question. So this is how it's going to go. So there's my stimulus. There's a change in osmolarity. What could have caused this? The question could be, a patient has lost too much blood. A patient has donated blood. A individual has been sweating and exercising and they've lost a lot of salt in their sweat. Something where you've lost salt, okay? And often remember, salt and water go together, okay? So if you change the osmolarity, there are going to be receptor cells in the afferent arterioles. Where are these afferent arterioles? Remember, these are the arterioles that go into the glomerulus of the Malpighian body. That's grade 11 work, everybody. That's why you should keep your grade 11 stuff. Now, Those afferent arterioles, they stimulate the renal corpuscle, and that corpuscle secretes renin. Renin is like a stimulating enzyme, and it gets this whole process going. That renin promotes the secretion of angiotensin. Josh, you're asking, does this formula apply to everything of homeostasis? Yes, it does. Everything, and not just homeostasis. You can also use that little formula for the nerves, like a reflex, and you can use it for all your other endocrine hormones as well. I'll prove it to you. I'll do glucose just now, and I'll show you it works exactly the same. So anyway, getting back to this, renin is secreted, and it promotes angiotensin. Angiotensin is sent to the adrenal cortex, which remember is in the adrenal gland. The corrective measure is the releasing of aldosterone. Aldosterone is then sent to the distal tubules. And when we send it to the distal tubules, two things happen. One, there is an increase in sodium ions that are reabsorbed into the blood, and excess potassium ions are excreted. From there, we return back to set point. Now, I just really want to stress something to everybody. Okay? Please, Matrix, if this is the one thing that you learn from today's lesson about homeostasis and salt and water, if the question says, give the name of the hormone that regulates osmoregulation, you are going to write aldosterone. You are not going to write ADH. And I will tell you why everyone keeps writing ADH. Because ADH is for water, right? And aldosterone is for salt. But the point is, water can't go anywhere if the salt is not there first. You have to make the blood saltier before the water can leave. So if you get that question on Friday, and it says, what is the hormone responsible for osmoregulation? You are writing aldosterone. I don't care that it says osmoregulation, water regulation, because water can't be regulated without salt. Okay, that's like the one thing that everyone would learn today. That would be it. All right, I'm going to move on to something else. I'm going to keep it flowing. So you all wanted to know, and I think one of you just asked now, can you apply my little loop here to everything? And I'll prove it to you. I can also apply it to the endocrine. So I've done it to the homeostasis. Let's do it to endocrine. I'll do one example. It's quick and easy. It's a common one, which is glucagon, glucose, etc., etc. Bridget, you can. I will come back to your question. Okay, this won't take me long. What I'm going to do now. So if we're doing the endocrine system, let me just get my pen to write. There we go. Endocrine. And specifically, I'm going to do something like, let's do glucagon. Okay? All right, so glucagon and endocrine. I'm going to follow this order. Stimulus, receptor, control center, corrective measure, effector, return to norm. So let's say the question says someone hasn't eaten in a very long time, right? So glucagon. Blood sugar levels drop. That's the stimulus. Okay? The stimulus is sent to a receptor. Now, in this instance, the receptor are cells, and they are the alpha cells. Okay? Where are the alpha cells? In the pancreas. Oh, I think I spelled pancreas wrong. Let me just get rid of that. Okay, pancreas. Okay, our alpha cells in the pancreas. What is our corrective measure? Remember, we've done receptor, control center. Now we need the corrective measure. The corrective measure is we secrete glucagon. Okay. It's my pleasure, Rachie. So we secrete glucagon, right? Now that needs to go to the, if we go back here, effector. right? Now this is glucagon, everybody. The effector is only going to be the liver, not the muscles. And the reason for that, why it's not the muscles, is because why would you want to take sugar out of tissue that needs instant access to sugar at all times? You don't ever want to do that. So the liver is the only effector. That liver is going to take glucagon and it converts glycogen into glucose, right? That is then secreted into the bloodstream, and the blood sugar returns to norm, or you can also say to set point. Okay, that's literally how I would teach glucagon. You can do exactly the same thing for insulin, except it'll be sugar levels increase, the beta cells, pancreas secretes insulin, insulin is to the liver and the muscles, and the liver and muscles convert glucose into glycogen, and the blood level returns back to norm. So you can actually do it for all of them, everybody. Okay, one more time, I'll flip you around. I know a lot of you are asking me, why don't I post my notes? Erin, I'll put it up now again so you can see the formula answer. It's difficult for me to post my notes. I'm trying to think of a way that would make the most sense. There's no point in me posting notes if you don't know how to use them, if that makes sense. But I'm trying to figure out a way how best to share it with everybody and try and at least assist as many matrics as possible. So I'm going to quickly show you. I know, Erin, you just asked what the formula answer is, so I'm just going to put it up on the screen. Quick sticks. So there it is, Erin, if you want to take a screenshot of it. Okay. And then I remember a question that came earlier. What was it now about the menstrual cycle? I'll quickly answer that. Oh, I can't go that far on the questions. I can't remember whose question that was. Menstrual cycle and body temperature. Okay. So essentially what happens is, in terms of body temperature, all you need to know is that the body temperature raises on ovulation day. And that has to do with the effects of estrogen. So I don't know if you know this, but estrogen plays a really important role in your blood vessels, in your maintenance of blood vessels, in men and women. Okay, both men and women need estrogen, just in different amounts, just like women need testosterone as well to grow muscle and bone. And estrogen peaks around ovulation along with LH and FSH. And when it does that, it makes your blood vessels a little more vascular. It allows your body temperature to rise slightly. But essentially, all you need to know is that the day she ovulates, this female, her body temperature will go up. And that's all you need to know. You don't need to know too many specifics around that. And then Alexa, you asked me, can you please repeat how to access the prelim papers as a resource for essay questions? So, you need to go into specific government pages. For example, I'm in the Western Cape, so I would go into the Western Cape Education Department website. If I wanted to see the Gauteng one, I would go into the Gauteng Education Department website. Then I would go into their exam resource page, or I would go into their, like, a past paper page. That's probably what they would call it. And you should be able to find prelims. They're called provincial prelims. That's what you're looking for. Provincial grade 12 prelims. And you should be able to see those past prelims there. and you should be able to access them. The easiest one to find, everybody, and I know this from experience, is the Eastern Cape one. And a lot of essay questions have come out of the Eastern Cape as well before. So that's one way that you can get those past papers. And I think everybody knows how to get the old past papers of the final exam, which is on the government website. Okay, there it was Bridget that asked the question. Ma'am, does the secondary oocyte degenerate if fertilization does not occur? Yeah, well, yes. So nothing makes it through to the next round. We mustn't forget that, and I don't think we teach this in high school level, but maybe some of your teachers have taught you this. The oocyte, you're born with all of them. You actually undergo meiosis while you're still a fetus as a female, and you complete meiosis 2 only at the end of fertilization, which is so weird, and we don't really teach it in high school because it's very complicated. But essentially, to make your answer easy, Bridget, the secondary oocyte, that disappears, it degenerates, it's no longer a part. Essentially, the secondary oocyte, it degenerates because the Graafian follicle has been made. That becomes the corpus luteum, and we don't want another oocyte trying to grow at the same time. Is it, I think it's Vashin. You want to know what do I think the possible essay questions are? I mean, I know what I think it is, but I'm scared to say what it is, and everybody banks on that. I'm nervous to say what it is, but I'll put my T's and C's, okay? My terms and conditions. This is what I think paper 1's essay is going to be. Historically, it hasn't been a reproduction question in a very long time. If it's not going to be reproduction, it's going to be an ear or an eye question, because they're the only two big enough topics that can hold a question that big. And last year they did hormones. They're not going to do another hormone question this year. So I think there's going to be some kind of nervous system essay with the ear or the eye, or human reproduction. And if it is the ear and the eye, it's probably going to be one of those, somebody sees something far away and they run towards it. Explain how they see the ball, the object, and explain how they maintain their balance and posture. For paper 2, my strong suspicion is it's going to be a human evolution essay, and it's probably going to be maybe something along the lines of key features of humans in their development of bipedalism, and key features in the homo group. So you'll talk about like bipedalism, dentition, prognathus, jaw. You're going to talk about the pelvis in particular. Yeah, I think that's probably what paper 2's essay is going to be, because last year paper 2's essay was a genetics essay, and they're not going to do a genetic essay again. And unfortunately, there are no big topics other than evolution that they can put a 20-mark question in. I know someone asked here for grade 11 revision. I just see the message, but now it's disappeared. Yes. So, I'm trying to do as many grades as possible. I'm just trying to do a lot for the grade 12s because they're writing soon, but the plan is to do some grade 11 revision, and I did promise on one of my TikToks that I'm going to do a live for the grade 11s as well this year. It's going to be difficult because I know not all grade 11s have done the same work, because you were allowed to do pretty much whatever you could in the lockdown period, but I'm going to try and cover the stuff that I know everybody doesn't do so great in. But I'll post something else on TikTok so that you know when that live happens. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be the ear and the eye at the end of this year. I don't know, Jade, if I'm wrong, but the essay question last year was about paternity testing and blood groups. So isn't that genetics? And I'm talking about the NSC paper. So I don't know if maybe you and I are talking about the same paper. Felicity, you're saying, could it be human impact? It was an essay question in 2017. This is the last year you're going to do human impact as well. It's been phased out of the grade 12 topics. So there is a chance that that can happen too. It's a small chance though. Spacey, when you say that the reproduction might be an essay question, is it the whole fertilization process? I'll give you an example of what it's been an essay before. Something like this. Describe the structural suitability of the sperm cell and describe how fertilization occurs. So the first paragraph, you're going to talk about how sperm cells are structurally suitable for their function. So it's not that hard, okay? It sounds intimidating, but all you're talking about is the shape of the sperm cell, the fact that it's motile, that it has lots of mitochondria in its neck piece, and that it carries an acrosome which allows it to dissolve the outside of the ovum. Okay, that's your first paragraph. Second paragraph, then you go into fertilization. Sperm cell joins with an ovum, forms a zygote. Zygote undergoes mitosis. This all takes place in the fallopian tube. This forms a morula. A morula is a hollow ball of cells. Those ball of cells becomes the blastocyst. The blastocyst moves down into the uterus. It then embeds itself in the endometrium, where it grows villi, which attach itself to the wall of the endometrium, and those villi will eventually become the placenta. So that can also be the essay as well, which it has been, I think, a couple of years ago. Yes, so last year's paper 1 question was plants and the human response to gravity, which is correct. That's what paper 1 was. Definitely. Was a tricky question because I don't think anyone saw it coming. But I don't think that they're going to do that again this year. I think they might go a little bit more straightforward. They're not going to mix and match topics. Okay, I don't know if there's any other things you want to ask me, because everybody, I know there was also a request for me to do some eye stuff. Thank you, conscious dreamer. I know my glasses are fresh. I know, Spacey, I know I make it sound so easy, but you forget that I've explained this many, many, many times. I've been teaching for longer than I look. I'm older than I look, so I've been teaching a lot longer. And I know I make it easy, but yeah, you can do this too. Okay, so Jamie, do you think we need to know the specific names for evolution and like of the fossils? Yes, okay. Let me tell you the golden ones you have to know. Mrs. Plays, Littlefoot, Taong Child, and Karabo. Those 4. Mrs. Plays, Littlefoot, Taong Child, Karabo. Those are the 4 that you need to know. And you need to know who found them, the name of the scientists, and you need to know what country they were found in. Most of them were found in South Africa. Oh, I forgot. Lucy. Forgot about Lucy. So I'll say them again. Mrs. Plays, Littlefoot, Taong Child, Karabo, and Lucy. You'll need to know those 5, who found them, and in what country. Lucy's pretty much the outlier in that group. And Littlefoot, they are found, I think, in Tanzania, whereas everybody else was found in South Africa in the Cradle of Mankind in the Stakfontein Caves. But other than that, those are the only fossils and things that you need to know. Let's see what else we said. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you my note for speciation and natural selection, because I know it's in paper 2, but I know that many of you don't know this. And I know that you still need to study it, but maybe my note will help. Okay, so I am going to put this on. So I'm going to, let me turn this sideways so you can see it. I want to zoom out so you can see the whole thing. If you were going to take a screenshot, now is your opportunity to do so. And I will do, I'm just seeing Dark Angel, I will do another live for paper 2 as well. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to quickly show you, and this will probably be this is the second last thing I'm going to do for you. So natural selection versus speciation. Natural selection is a mechanism of speciation. You can't make a new species without this tool. So what I've done here is I have quickly jotted it down, what the most important things are, and essentially what you need to write in an essay or in a paragraph question. So the underlying things are your keywords here. So there's a large number of offspring. They have variation. Some have favorable characteristics, others don't. The environmental changes leads to a competition of resources. Those that are more suited survive. Those with the unfavorable die. The surviving organisms reproduce. They pass this allele on for the favorable characteristic. The next generation will have a higher proportion of favorable characteristics, and this will result in a gradual change. I would like you to know that natural selection does not make a new species. It just chooses a more favorable characteristic. A perfect example of this is peppered moths. Peppered moths come in white and black. And throughout the last few decades, peppered moths have been mostly white, and then they became more black, and now they've gone back to being more white, and that's simply because of the change in their environment, but they were never new species. Okay, then speciation. Okay, so speciation is the product of natural selection if you make a new species. So a single species becomes separated by a geographical barrier, and it splits the population into two. There is no gene flow, which means they don't reproduce. Each population experiences different environmental pressures independently of one another. In other words, if one island is hot and one island is cold, they experience that differently. And so natural selection now occurs independently. This is the only time you will mention natural selection. It's literally just a point. You actually just go natural selection. Two populations become pheno and genotypically different, and even if they were to mix, they could not interbreed and produce fertile offspring. You have to say fertile offspring, otherwise they are the same species, and now two different species exist. Okay. All right. That's going to be the second last thing I do, because I don't want this live to go on for too long. And then it gets too lengthy also to upload. So this last thing that I'm going to upload now for you is the pupillary mechanism, which is the eye's ability to let more or less light into the eye. It's when your pupil gets bigger or smaller, and this is often a paragraph question. It's not really it's not normally an essay question. It can be an essay question, but it's never going to be the whole essay question. It'll be a part of an essay. So like the whole essay will be about how you see, and then this will be one paragraph of that. So this is the pupillary mechanism. This is the last thing we're going to do today. I'm just going to flip the camera around quickly. Okay, so this is my note. I'll pull out a little bit so that you can see, pull away from the page. Okay, so the mechanism that's responsible for the pupillary mechanism. So this is an eye that I've taken. This is the pupil. This is the hole into the eye. And then sitting around this is your iris. This is the color part of your eye. The colored part of your eye has two different kinds of muscles in it. It has a radial muscle, which these are the muscles that go up and out. And then it has circular muscles, which go around it. Now, these two muscles are what we call since, just to let you know, am I a legit teacher? I don't know. My degree, my years of experience, and perhaps the fact that I marked the final paper, I don't know if that's a good enough answer for you. Anyway, so the radial iris muscle and the circular muscle, these two are antagonistic of one another. And so what that means is they work in opposite. So when one contracts, the other relaxes. Okay, so let me show you what happens in bright light. You'll see that I'm only focusing on the circular muscles now. Okay, so in bright light, I'm sure you've noticed your pupil gets smaller. So the circular muscles contract, the radial muscles relax, and the pupil reduces. And that's how you get your marks. Tick, tick, tick. Okay? What happens if you go into a dark room, so there's not a lot of light there? The radial muscles now contract, the circular muscles relax, and the pupils dilate. And if you can see my two pictures side by side, you can see the difference in the pupil size, but you can also see the difference in the muscles. These are the circular ones, these are the radial ones. And that's how you explain pupillary mechanism. It's actually quite short and easy, but a lot of people don't get it right. Okay. Oh, let me just flip my camera around so you don't all have to see my construction work that is happening next door. Okay, I'm just quickly looking to see if there are any more questions before I go, because I'm going to end the live soon. I'm going to do one more again on Thursday afternoon, and that one is going to be just question and answers. If you're busy studying for your very last your paper on Friday, and there anything that you want to ask me just before the next day, that'll be your chance to do so. The link for my YouTube page is in my bio. I'm actually uploading 3 videos today. 4. It'll be the live, and it'll be an essay question. It will be plant hormones, and there's a 4th one now I can't think off the top of my head, but there's actually a whole bunch of videos already up there that you can go and see. And that's about it. I'll see another post. I will post later this week, and then we can do some last minute Q&A before Friday. And yes, I will also, I think that says Kayla, I will do a paper 2 revision probably next week, Sunday, because you write on the Monday. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And don't forget to go and see my YouTube channel, where you can find all of these links and all these videos. Bye.